While Naruto was certainly the GOAT of his franchise, I have to say I'm sometimes disappointed by the amount of jutsu he uses. Sure, rasengans, shadow clones, sage mode, and all the Jinchuriki magic are all classics. But the shinobi world is a Willy Wonka's chocolate factory of awesome powers he could have learned! If it were me, I would have learned as many jutsu as possible. I mean, what Naruto fan hasn't at least tried a few hand signs? Naruto may be the most famous shinobi of his generation, but his father was arguably just as famous. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, was a true legend that pretty much everyone talked about like he was Konoha's Captain America. Naruto managed to master Minato's rasengan technique, but it would have been awesome if he had learned his father's other signature move. Learning the Flying Thunder God technique could have completed Naruto's trifecta of following in his father's footsteps. Rasengan? Check. Hokage? Check. Flying Thunder God? Not yet. It would be incredible to see him become Konoha's second Yellow Flash. Maybe one day he'll fully master his father's legacy. I mean, he's already got the blonde spiky hair down. The various clans of Konoha all have signature techniques that they are known for. The Inuzuka clan is known for their beastly appearance and their combination attacks with their canine sidekicks. Kiba Inuzuka is the one most associated with them. We see him use the Fang Wolf Fang Jutsu, where his dog Akamaru mimics his appearance and the two attack in sequence. While Naruto isn't an Inuzuka, his initial Jinchuriki form is very similar to Kiba's wolfish claws and fangs. He could replace Akamaru with a shadow clone and pretty much use the exact same technique. It would have been awesome to see Naruto mimic Kiba's signature technique and outdo him at it in their own showdown during the Chunin exams. The Akamichi clan is known for one thing above all others: their ability to pack on calories. Choji Akamichi, the one we see the most of, is almost always chomping away on a snack or eating a huge meal to keep himself at the ideal weight to use their signature move, the multi-size technique. Well, seeing as how Naruto loves to eat giant portions of ramen, what better technique could there be for him to master? I mean, he already likes to eat like an Akamichi. Why not utilize that talent? Imagine Naruto expanding the size of his hand while summoning a giant rasengan to push into his enemy's face. That's a table full of ramen, well utilized. Choji shocked everyone by showing that he wasn't the joke many took him for during the mission to reclaim Sasuke from Orochimaru. By taking all of his colored pills, Choji was able to activate the butterfly mode, which converted all his body fat into chakra. He was able to basically go the Akamaki version of Super Saiyan and obliterate Jirobo. It would be amazing to see Naruto utilize this technique. Can you imagine him combining butterfly mode with Kurama's chakra? A nine-tailed fox butterfly would pretty much obliterate anyone. That is, if Naruto could pack on enough pounds to make it work, or survive the after effects. Still, it sounds worth it. For many fans, the fight that solidified Naruto as an anime deserving of its position alongside titans like Dragon Ball Z and Bleach didn't have anything to do with the titular character at all. It would be the legendary showdown between the overpowered Gaara and the ultimate underdog, Rock Lee, who went the distance despite being utterly outmatched in every way. He was able to break through Gaara's defenses by utilizing the incredibly dangerous 8 Gates technique, which pushes a person's body to its absolute limits. If Naruto studied under Might Guy instead of Kakashi, it's possible he could have learned this technique. As a Jinchuriki, it's likely that opening 8 gates would have made him even more powerful than Might Guy himself. Though I don't think he'd be able to pull off the haircut as well as Rock Lee. For a while in the opening arcs of the first Naruto series, our hero was more than a bit behind the curve when it came to fighting. Sure, he had a lot of spirit, but he would frequently charge in without a plan and get outmaneuvered. The only thing that saved him in those days, aside from his teammates and his burgeoning Jinchuriki abilities, was his unpredictable style. Naruto would often zig when someone expects him to zag, managing to land a surprise blow. So imagine how hard it would be to fight against a Naruto who had mastered the Drunken Fist. Normal Naruto is loopy enough. If he was able to lose his inhibitions and master Rock Lee's bizarre fighting style, then I don't know how anyone would ever figure out what he was going to do next. There are some techniques that I think Naruto could master, but I'm glad he never did. Several shinobi in Naruto have shown expertise in the puppet technique, where they use battle puppets to initiate complex attacks. Seeing as how Naruto expertly coordinates his various shadow clones into intricate strategies to confuse and get the best of his enemies, I think he would have a real talent for this type of combat. So what's my problem with Naruto mastering the puppet technique? Well, it's 100% to do with the kinds of puppets he would make. You just know young Naruto would make puppets that resembled his sexy jutsu in a crude attempt to throw off his opponents. That's not a side of Naruto that needs encouragement. The Sharingan is a genetic trait that most shinobi seem to be very jealous of. For the most part, it is strictly a trait that is used by Uchihas, and Uchihas alone. The biggest exception to this is Kakashi, who was gifted his Sharingan by his fallen comrade Obito. This enabled him to become the copycat ninja and master his signature move, the Chidori. In a world where Naruto was Kakashi's primary pupil instead of Sasuke, it would have been cool to see Kakashi pass his Sharingan to Naruto and teach him the Chidori. As skilled as Naruto is with the rasengan, you just know his Chidori skills would have been impressive. Once Kakashi lost his Sharingan, he had to get creative to offset the huge power drop in his abilities. Without the ability to copy other ninjas' attacks, or use his signature Chidori, Kakashi had to create something new. That's where lightning release purple electricity comes into play in Boruto. While Naruto utilizes a lot of techniques that he learned from Jiraiya, he doesn't really emulate Kakashi-sensei all that much. It would be really cool for him to pull out purple electricity in a fight at some point in the future, to show just how deep his respect for Kakashi truly goes. I mean, how many other of his contemporary shinobi directly copied or riffed on the signature abilities of their sensei? Since becoming the Hokage, Naruto has made the wise decision of making Shikamaru one of his closest advisors. Not only is Shikamaru a tactical genius, but he has a very clever signature technique. Shadow imitation allows him to stretch his shadow and merge it with an opponent's. He has shown time and time again just how versatile this technique can be. If Naruto took the time to master it, I think it would drastically increase his abilities. Think about it. If Naruto were able to utilize his shadow clones, then he could easily trick an enemy into getting their shadow bound to his. Not only that, but he could even bind several enemies at once. Naruto's entire career as a shinobi skyrocketed when he went under the tutelage of Jiraiya, one of the 3 Sannin of Konoha. He was able to learn Rasengan and even became a toad summoning master like his sensei. So imagine if he followed in the footsteps of one of the other Sannin, Tsunade. Her big move was a creation rebirth technique which basically supercharges the body and allows one to heal instantly. I can't imagine just how powerful this technique would be if he combined it with Kurama's chakra. The only problem is he would have to stop calling her Granny Tsunade if he wanted her to teach him. I don't see that happening. I really like the shinobi in Naruto who take a simple idea and commit to it to such an extreme that they become a one-man army. One of those shinobi is Tenten, who takes the standard weaponry most ninjas use and developed an entire fighting style around it. This was topped off by the Twin Rising Dragons technique, where she summons a huge array of weapons and tosses them at her opponents in quick succession. While I don't think this would ever be one of Naruto's main techniques, it is definitely one that I think he would be able to master. He's also shown off several times that he can hide a shadow clone by disguising it as a weapon. It's easy to see how this could be combined with Twin Rising Dragons to a devastating degree. One of the Naruto characters that I have the biggest problem with is the third Hokage himself, Sarutobi. When Naruto's parents perished after the Nine-Tailed Fox attack, it was Sarutobi's responsibility to look after him. Well, I don't think he did a very good job. However, in a world where Sarutobi properly took Naruto under his wing as a student, he could have learned so much from the legendary shinobi master. Instead of taking after Jiraiya's tendencies to summon toads, Naruto could have summoned Sarutobi's Monkey King, Enma. It's easy to imagine a confident Naruto utilizing the Adamantine staff technique of the third Hokage instead of Rasengan. You only had one job, Sarutobi! I mean, aside from being Hokage, that is. Sarutobi was considered one of the greatest shinobi Konoha saw for a good reason. Not only was he a skilled combatant, but he was also able to utilize all of the nature transformations. This would have been a big help if he had personally trained Naruto, one who wasn't as great a master with nature transformations. He could have utilized Sarutobi's Earth Dragon Bullet to shoot powerful mud bullets at his opponents. It's never bad to have a few elemental attacks in the back pocket for when you need them. While Sasuke is a master of fire release, this was never Naruto's strong suit. In a world where Sarutobi taught Naruto to master all of the nature transformations, he could have learned the powerful fire dragon flame bullet that Sarutobi used against Orochimaru during the Konoha crush. This creates a concentrated dragon-shaped river of flames that is very precise. Combined with the Earth Dragon bullet, this is a devastating attack that could have helped Naruto dozens of times throughout the series. There's nothing quite as cool as combining your jutsu together. Just imagine how insane this combo would be if he did it while in tailed beast mode. Literal dragons might be afraid of the flames he could pull off. Sarutobi's in case of emergency attack was the Reaper Death Seal. This allowed him to summon a literal Shinigami, or god of the afterlife, who he could bind an enemy's soul to at the cost of his own life. This technique is a way of cutting through all the nasty combat and just getting to the brutal end. Naruto learning this could have changed the course of a few battles, but probably would have ended the franchise with his demise. Orochimaru's big plan throughout the first Naruto series was to get his hands on Sasuke so he could eventually take over Sasuke's body and gain the Sharingan. Well, clearly this plan didn't work out so well for him. While he was able to take Sasuke under his wing for several years, his inevitable betrayal was swift and brutal. So imagine a world where he picked up Naruto instead and infected him with the cursed seal. This would have given Naruto the ability to turn into a horrific monster like all of Orochimaru's other pupils. Naruto mimicked Jiraiya's affinity for summoning great toads to use in battle. It became a signature technique for him as much as it was for his sensei. In a world where Naruto studied with Orochimaru instead of Jiraiya, he would summon great snakes instead of toads. Specifically, Orochimaru's greatest snake was the giant purple monstrosity, Manda. If being the host of the Nine-Tailed Fox didn't make him terrifying enough, riding around on a giant snake monster would probably put him over the top. Perhaps one of Orochimaru's most disturbing abilities is the impure world reincarnation summoning technique. By Orochimaru standards, this being one of his most disturbing techniques is a really big deal. This allows him to take control of a deceased shinobi and use them as his own soldiers. I can imagine a truly tragic way Naruto could have used this technique if he was a true student of Orochimaru. The Sharingan is one of the most coveted genetic abilities in the franchise. As rare as it is, we have seen it transferred between people. So it's far too tempting not to imagine how cool it would be for Naruto to have gained a Sharingan of his own. I'm pretty sure the sheer weight of the loss he'd feel after Pain's assault on Konoha would allow him to gain the Mangekyo Sharingan. If Naruto were able to gain the Mangekyo Sharingan, then he would be able to create the perfect Susanoo. This is the ultimate ability of the Uchiha that creates a giant suit of armor made of chakra that is able to deliver a devastating amount of power. Naruto was able to match this with his Jinchuriki abilities when he fought Sasuke, so it is terrifying to imagine what a perfect Susanoo would look like wrapped around Kurama's form. Naruto has had a ton of mentors, teachers, and role models across the franchise. The one who started it all was Iruka Sensei, who was the first person to see the diamond in the rough that the future Hokage truly was. So it would be cool if Naruto utilized some of his techniques more to show how much he learned from his very first teacher. Most notably, he could have learned the string light formation, which is a barrier that prevents the target from ever escaping once it's been cast. I think if there's one area Naruto could improve on, it's his mastery of Genjutsu. The technique I think best for him to take on is the demonic illusion technique Kakashi used on Sakura early in the series. Naruto managing to show his opponents their greatest fear is just a great technique for any shinobi to master. I have a soft spot for Naruto's big moment with the 6 Paths of Pain. As cool as it is to see Naruto take on Nagato, I think the only thing that would be cooler is if Naruto gained Nagato's Rasengan and mastered the 6 Paths of Pain himself. Just imagine if Naruto took his fallen friends in the same way that Nagato did. He would use friends like Sakura, Kakashi, Neji, Rock Lee, Hinata, and Sasuke as his own zombie-like host to do battle for him. If there is one thing that Naruto was good at when he was young, it's a transformation jutsu. If Naruto were to never learn the Shadow Clone technique, it's possible that this would have become his primary area of study. While it's a gross way to start his shinobi career, it could have inevitably evolved into something like the face copying technique. While I truly think that a world exists where Naruto learns pretty much every cool ability in the shinobi world, There's no world where Naruto ever matches Killer Bee's rap game. That's his power and his alone.